Welcome to Attleboro Update. The City Council made big changes last week that will affect businesses in Attleboro. The City Council voted to reduce the commercial share of the split tax rate by 7.5%. The reduction means that business property of average value will see an increase of $580 instead of an increase of $1,600. The City Council hopes that this move will help reduce the tax burden for Attleboro businesses. We spoke with City Councilor Brian Kirby to find out more about the effects of the new tax rate.
One of the main tasks that I have to do as budget chairman is we vote on the tax classification. Recently the city council voted to change the split from a higher amount to 1.35. Back in 1981, according to the history that I've looked up, the city began to tax its businesses, its commercial industrial complex, at a higher rate than its residential. And back in 81 and even in the 1990s, the large businesses that were here might have been able to handle some of that extra taxation. But as we've seen through the 2000s, that really became a burden on the businesses within the city. And so we've been pushing to change that tax split because we were at the maximum of 1.5 times the residential rate for businesses. So in 2009, we slowly began to come off of the 1.5 times the rate, coming down 2.5% in 2009, 2.5% in 2010, and 2011, making slow, steady progress towards changing the rate. But at that pace, it was going to be 20 years before we'd ever achieve a single tax rate. This year, as is every year, Stan Nasowitz, our city assessor, came down and gives us the numbers. This is where we're at with the property taxes for residentials. This is where we're at for property taxes with businesses, and makes a recommendation. And he's been recommending that we close the gap. This year, he made a fairly aggressive recommendation at 5%. And after looking at all the numbers, I came forward with a recommendation of 7.5%, moving from a tax split of 1.425, which is where we were at, moving down to 1.35%. Business taxes are still going to be taxed at 35% higher than residential, but still closing the gap. And the 7.5% is seen as aggressive, is seen as but beneficial to businesses, a real sign to businesses that this city council is serious about helping businesses, retaining businesses, building new businesses. This year, the tax levy for the city of Attleboro is $58.6 million that we're supposed to raise through taxation. That can only go up generally, with very few exceptions. That can only go up by that 2.5% that came in through Proposition 2.5 all the way back in the 1980s. The city gets to decide what half is going to be taxed on the residential side, or what half is going to be on the business side. Now, we were able to vote the tax split as of November 26th, which allowed us to send all our paperwork up to Boston early, and it's already been approved. And we need to do that late in November, very early in December, so that all the tax bills printed for January 1st. The new tax split rate goes into effect January 1st, and will affect the third and fourth quarter billing cycles.